Ngozi, you are cursed. The words, sharp as thorns, ripped through the humid air of the village square. It was Ease, the village elder, his voice booming with a false prophecy, a decree that would shatter Ngozi's world. Just 18, with eyes that held the warmth of the rising sun and a spirit as free as the soaring eagles above the savannah, Ngozi stood frozen. Her crime? Her father's debt, a debt that had spiraled out of control, a debt that now demanded the ultimate price. Her hand in marriage to Ifani, a man as destitute as the parched earth during the dry season. Ifani. His name tasted like ash in Ngozi's mouth. His eyes, though, held a strange intensity, a flicker of something she couldn't quite decipher, a secret buried deep beneath a veneer of poverty. But fear drowned out curiosity. Fear of the unknown, fear of a life shackled to a stranger, fear of a prophecy that painted her future in hues of despair. The wedding day arrived, a mockery of celebration. The vibrant colors of the traditional attire felt like a cruel joke, the rhythmic drums a dirge to her lost freedom. As she walked towards Ifani, her bare feet dragging on the dusty ground, she felt the weight of 1,000 eyes, not of joy but of pity, of morbid curiosity. She felt the weight of 1,000 eyes, not of joy but of pity, of morbid curiosity. Ifani's touch was surprisingly gentle as he took her hand. His calloused fingers, a testament to his hard life, sent a shiver down her spine, a mix of revulsion and a strange, unfamiliar spark. The ceremony was a blur, a series of rituals she barely registered. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. The days that followed were a torment. Their hut, a crumbling structure on the outskirts of the village, mirrored her inner desolation. Ifani was silent, his eyes filled with a sadness she couldn't penetrate. He worked tirelessly in the fields, his body a testament to his struggle for survival. She cooked, cleaned, and existed, a ghost in her own life. The other women of the village, once her friends, now whispered behind their hands, their eyes filled with a mixture of pity and a hint of malicious glee.
She was an outcast, a pariah, marked by the elder's prophecy and bound to a man shrouded in mystery. One evening, as the sun bled across the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, Ifani spoke. His voice, rough from disuse, startled her. "Ngozi," he began, his gaze fixed on the ground, "I know this is not the life you wanted." She remained silent, her throat tight with unshed tears. "There are things you don't know about me," he continued, his voice barely a whisper. "Secrets I have kept hidden for too long." He looked up then, and for the first time, she saw not a poor, broken man, but a man burdened by a truth too heavy to bear alone. He told her of his father, a wealthy merchant who had disowned him for his refusal to embrace a life of privilege. He had chosen poverty, a life of simplicity, to prove his own worth, to escape the corruption that wealth often bred. Ngozi listened, her heart slowly thawing. The man she had feared, the man she had resented, was not a curse, but a victim of his own choices, a prisoner of his own integrity. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Ngozi began to see Ifani not as her tormentor, but as a man of quiet strength, a man whose heart was as vast as the savanna that surrounded their village. She saw the kindness in his eyes, the gentle way he treated the animals, the unwavering honesty that shone through his every action. But the prophecy still hung over them, a dark cloud threatening to unleash its fury. The villagers, fueled by envy and superstition, grew bolder in their accusations. They blamed Ifani for the poor harvest, for the sickness that swept through the village, for every misfortune that befell them. Ngozi defended him fiercely, her voice, once timid, now ringing with defiance. But her words were like pebbles against a raging storm. Then came the day of the revelation. Ease, the village elder, lay on his deathbed, his body ravaged by a mysterious illness. In his delirium, he confessed. The prophecy, he admitted, was a lie, a fabrication born of greed. Ngozi's father had been a good man, but he had refused to sell his land to Ease, land that Ease coveted. The marriage to Ifani was a carefully orchestrated plot, designed to break Ngozi's spirit, to force her father to relinquish his claim. The village was stunned. The truth, like a lightning bolt, illuminated the darkness that had shrouded their community. Shame washed over them, a tidal wave of guilt. But the story doesn't end there. Ifani, now free from the burden of his secret, revealed his wealth. Not to flaunt it, but to heal the wounds of the village, to rebuild what had been broken. He used his resources to improve their lives, to bring prosperity and hope where there had been only despair. And Ngozi? She stood by his side, not as a victim, but as a partner, a woman who had found strength in adversity, who had learned to love a man not for his wealth, but for his character. She had been betrayed, rejected, abandoned, and humiliated, but she had emerged from the ashes, stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. The story of Ngozi and Ifani teaches us that appearances can be deceiving, that true wealth lies not in material possessions, but in integrity and kindness. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, hope can blossom, and that betrayal can be overcome with courage and love. It shows us that a community built on lies and superstition will ultimately crumble, and that truth, though sometimes painful, is the only foundation for lasting peace and prosperity. But there's one more layer to their story, a twist that even Ngozi and Ifani didn't see coming. Remember the strange flicker in Ifani's eyes on their wedding day? It wasn't sadness, but recognition. Ngozi's mother, long thought dead, was alive. She had been a childhood friend of Ifani's mother, and before her supposed death, she had entrusted her with a secret. Ngozi was destined for greatness, a leader who would bring prosperity to their people. Ifani's mother had recognized Ngozi immediately, and had urged Ifani to protect her, to guide her, to help her fulfill her destiny. His silence, his seeming indifference, was a carefully constructed facade, a shield to protect her from the forces that sought to destroy her. He knew, from the very beginning, that Ngozi was not cursed, but blessed. Ngozi, now aware of her true heritage, embraced her destiny. She became a leader, a beacon of hope for her people. And Ifani, her husband, her protector, stood by her side, not as a wealthy man, but as a loving partner, a testament to the enduring power of love, truth, and resilience. Their story became a legend, a reminder that even in the face of the most profound betrayal, rejection, abandonment, and humiliation, the human spirit can triumph, and that even the poorest girl can become a queen. The revelation of Iza's deceit hung heavy in the air, a toxic cloud finally dissipating to reveal a sky bruised with the colors of shame and disbelief. The villagers, who had once cast stones of judgment at Ngozi and Ifani, now shuffled their feet in the dust, their eyes downcast. The weight of their collective injustice pressed upon them, a tangible burden. Ifani, with a quiet dignity that belied his newfound wealth, addressed the stunned assembly. His words were not of recrimination, but of healing. He spoke of forgiveness, not as a dismissal of their cruelty, but as a necessary step towards rebuilding their fractured community. He envisioned a village where truth and compassion would take root, where the whispers of malice would be replaced by the songs of unity. The transformation was gradual, like the slow return of the rains after a long drought. Ifani, true to his word, began to invest his resources wisely. He established a fund to support struggling families, ensuring no one would again be forced into a desperate bargain like the one that had brought him and Ngozi together. He brought in skilled artisans to teach new crafts, empowering the villagers with sustainable livelihoods. The crumbling huts were repaired, and new ones built, stronger and more resilient. The parched fields, once a symbol of their hardship, were now irrigated, yielding bountiful harvests. Ngozi, initially wary of the sudden shift in the villagers' demeanor, found herself becoming a bridge between the past and the future. Her own suffering had imbued her with a profound empathy, allowing her to understand the fear and desperation that had driven their earlier actions. She spoke with the women, sharing her story, not as a tale of victimhood, but as a testament to resilience. She encouraged them to find their voices, to challenge outdated traditions that perpetuated injustice. Their relationship deepened amidst this transformation. The initial fear and resentment Ngozi had felt towards Ifani had long since melted away, replaced by a deep and abiding love. She saw him not just as her rescuer, but as her equal, a man of unwavering principle and quiet strength. His past choice of poverty now seemed less like an eccentricity and more like a testament to his genuine character, a man who valued substance over superficiality. The shocking truth about Ngozi's mother added another layer of complexity to their lives. The reunion was bittersweet. Years of separation had created a chasm that couldn't be bridged overnight. Yet, the shared history, the undeniable bond of blood, began to weave them back together. Ngozi learned of her mother's own struggles, the reasons for her disappearance, the sacrifices she had made. It was a story of survival, of a mother's fierce love expressed through absence. Ngozi's mother, Adana, became a respected figure in the revitalized village. Her wisdom, gleaned from years of hardship and observation, proved invaluable. She often advised Ngozi, sharing insights into the intricate dynamics of their community, reminding her that true leadership lay not in authority, but in understanding and serving the people. As Ngozi embraced her destiny, the village flourished. The air, once thick with suspicion and fear, now hummed with the energy of progress and collaboration. The children played freely, their laughter echoing through the once desolate square. The elders gathered not to cast judgment, but to share stories of the past and dreams for the future. However, the seeds of the past sometimes threatened to sprout anew. There were those who still harbored resentment, who whispered that Ifani's wealth had unfairly tipped the scales, that Ngozi's rise was merely a consequence of her husband's fortune. These murmurs, though quieter, were a constant reminder that the scars of the past ran deep. One such individual was Chidi, Isa's nephew, who had once stood to inherit his uncle's power and influence. He watched Ngozi's ascendance with a simmering resentment, his ambition thwarted by the exposure of his uncle's treachery. He saw Ifani not as a benefactor, but as an interloper, a man who had disrupted the natural order of the village. Chidi began to subtly sow seeds of discontent, preying on the insecurities of those who felt left behind by the rapid changes. He twisted stories, subtly questioning Ifani's motives, painting Ngozi as a puppet controlled by her wealthy husband. His words, like insidious weeds, began to take root in the fertile ground of old grievances. Ngozi, now attuned to the subtle shifts in the village's mood, recognized the danger. She understood that true leadership required vigilance, a constant effort to build trust and address the concerns of all her people. She organized village meetings, creating a platform for open dialogue, encouraging even the most hesitant voices to be heard. She and Ifani worked tirelessly, demonstrating through their actions that their commitment was not to power, but to the well-being of the entire community. One day, Chidi orchestrated a public confrontation. He accused Ifani of manipulating the village with his wealth, of undermining their traditions. His words, laced with bitterness and a false sense of righteousness, swayed some of the more vulnerable villagers. Ngozi stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. She spoke not of Ifani's riches, but of his character, of his unwavering commitment to justice and fairness. She reminded them of the darkness they had lived in under Isa's rule, the fear that had silenced their voices. She spoke of her own journey, her own suffering, and how Ifani had stood by her, not as a savior, but as a partner. Then, Adana, Ngozi's mother, stepped forward. Her presence commanded respect. She spoke of the importance of unity, of looking forward rather than being chained to the prejudices of the past. She recounted the true story of Ngozi's lineage, the prophecy that had spoken not of a curse, but of a leader who would rise from hardship, a leader embodied by her daughter. The impact of Adana's words was profound. The villagers, witnessing the strength and unity of Ngozi, Ifani, and Adana, began to see through Chidi's manipulations. His accusations rang hollow against the truth of their actions. Chidi's influence waned, and eventually, he was ostracized by the community he had tried to divide. The village, having weathered the storm of deceit and resentment, emerged stronger and more united. Ngozi and Ifani continued to lead with wisdom and compassion. They understood that true progress was not just about material wealth, but about fostering a community built on trust, understanding, and mutual respect. They championed education, ensuring that the children would grow up with open minds and critical thinking skills, less susceptible to the manipulations of fear and superstition. They honored their traditions, but also embraced progress, finding a balance between the wisdom of the past and the opportunities of the future. Their love story became an enduring legend, a testament to the transformative power of truth and forgiveness. Ngozi, the poor girl who was forced into a marriage she dreaded, became a symbol of resilience and leadership. Ifani, the man who had concealed his wealth in pursuit of a genuine life, became a beacon of integrity and selfless love. Their continued journey underscores the importance of vigilance against the insidious nature of resentment and the need for constant effort in fostering unity. It highlights the crucial role of forgiveness, not as a passive acceptance of wrongdoing, but as an active choice to move forward. It demonstrates that true leadership lies not in wielding power, but in empowering others and building a community where every voice is valued. Years later, as Ngozi and Ifani watched their own children grow, a new revelation surfaced, connecting the past in an unexpected way. A traveling historian, researching the lineage of their village, discovered ancient scrolls detailing a prophecy even older than the one Ys had fabricated. This prophecy spoke of a union between two seemingly disparate souls, one marked by apparent poverty, the other seemingly cursed, whose combined strength would bring unprecedented prosperity and wisdom to their people. The scrolls hinted that subtle signs, overlooked for generations, would mark these individuals. Ifani's unusual intensity of gaze, interpreted as sadness, was actually described as the knowing eyes of the hidden stream. Ngozi's innate resilience, initially seen as stubbornness, was heralded as the unyielding spirit of the rising sun. The historian revealed that the seemingly random events that led to their forced marriage were not random at all, but subtle orchestrations by a secret society within the village, guardians of the ancient prophecy. They had recognized the signs in Ngozi and Ifani and had subtly guided events, knowing that their union, though born of injustice, held the key to the village's true potential. Isa's greed had inadvertently served their larger purpose. This final twist revealed a deeper current flowing beneath the surface of their story, a sense of destiny intertwined with their individual struggles. It underscored that even in the darkest of circumstances, unseen forces might be at play, guiding individuals towards a greater purpose. Ngozi and Ifani's love, born in the crucible of adversity, was not just a personal triumph, but a fulfillment of an ancient prophecy, a testament to the enduring power of fate and the extraordinary potential that lies within seemingly ordinary lives. Their story echoed through the generations, a reminder that even the poorest among us can be destined for greatness, and that love, truth, and resilience can indeed change the course of destiny.